2003 when I was going on this trip. I didn't know what to expect, and I have to say I was afraid because I was going into absolutely unknown territory. I knew the Congolese sisters, and they were going to take care of me. But it's just an unimaginable experience. The sisters that I knew and who worked with all of the villages, they had muddy roads or no roads at all. There was no day when there was all electricity and water available. And so what I realized was that we really needed to, before we could do anything about communications, we had to do something about electricity. And so that became the beginning of the project.
It's not simply the physical suffering that people endure on a day-by-day basis. It's a very difficult, very tough life. But probably the biggest effect it has on human beings is that it limits their vision of the world. Most of the time, they're involved in difficult physical tasks in order to get enough calories to get them through to the end of the day. They're thinking solely about survival. They have to.
What they did not want is Americans to arrive and to put these solar panels up on the roofs and leave, and the solar panels break, and 3 days later, and no one knows how to do it, and you end up with junk on your roof. So one of the essential components of this project has to be the education of the people for whom it is being installed. Our mission everywhere is to educate for life, because education is what is going to provide people with a way out of poverty, and it's the only way. After I came back from my 6-week tour, I thought to myself, how can we possibly find anyone who would be able to deal with this? God sent Louis into one of my finance meetings in Worcester. And I said, oh, he's an electrical engineer. I've got a way bigger problem than this. Are you interested?
Somewhere past the 50th trip, I sort of lost track, and I don't even know now. I'm one of these people who intended to show up for 2 weeks and never quite got away.
One of the things that we realized was that we needed somebody in the Congo, a sister in the Congo, who was going to be able to monitor this project.
It wasn't enough for us to come here and drop something on them. You need somebody who becomes the champion, who becomes the owner. Sister Dorothy became that person.
C'est un projet qui est réellement grand et qui aide la population. Et c'est ce que le Seigneur nous demande de faire, de partager ce que nous avons avec les pauvres. Nous sommes dans un milieu pauvre.
She's not a person who comes across as anything warm and fuzzy and cuddly or anything like that. And what happens with Sister Dorothy as you get to know her, you start to appreciate the tremendous difficulties that she has to deal with as part and parcel of her life. She needs that toughness, and yet at the same time, what you see is that there's an enormous warmth. She wants to see people's lives become better, oftentimes at a significant sacrifice of her own. In the DRC, which has very, very little infrastructure, the majority of the sisters' communities are located in rural, very, very rural areas in the provinces of Kwango, to the east and south of Kinshasa, and in Congo Central. Sister Dorothy Moya operates from one of the sisters' communities in Kinshasa, and over time is able to start to provide service and coverage for each of these rural communities. In order for the sisters to be able to develop, it It meant that they were going to have to step into a sphere where they began to handle many, many types of responsibilities that turned them into business women. Because oftentimes they're dealing with sums of money that can run to the hundreds of thousands of dollars. They're handling contractors, they're handling planning functions.
The very first budgeting meeting that we had was back probably in 2004, 2005. Some of them didn't have computers. They didn't even know what a computer was. And we had legal pads and pencils, and we had a lot of tears.
But as we go along, they start to get more and more used to this more contemporary style of management, getting quite good at it. Papa Michel.
Oui, monsieur Louis.
Voyez Malamou, papa.
Voyez Malamou.
Oui,
Merci.
oui, oui, oui. Comment ça va?
Ça va très
Oui.
bien. Bonjour, là, bien?
Oui, merci, merci.
C'est bon.
On est prêt?
Oui, oui.
Okay. C'est maintenant ou jamais. Pelende is about 550 kilometers from where we are now. The drive time is 21 hours at an average speed is approximately 20 kilometers per hour. Once we get into open country, it's not that we are off-road, there is no road. On est prêt à rouler?
Oui, nous sommes
Okay,
prêts. Nous
okay.
sommes prêts.
On y va? Okay. There are people who enjoy off-roading. I do not. In the DRC, one of the things it is famous for is the absolute and total lack of roads. The country has effectively one paved road, and the rest of the time, you're on your own. Even though I've been driving for 40 years and have driven all sorts of vehicles, I would not be able to even attempt to drive this road. The skills that a driver has to have is he has to know where to go, because out here there are no road signs, so it's a very, very important skill not to get lost. In a subsistence economy, people don't really travel, and as a consequence what happens is that people remain in isolation, the roads remain unbuilt, and you are faced with this very, very significant hurdle anytime you want to build anything here. You have a lot of water on these roads and sinks in, and when you get partial erosion, the sand or the mud becomes too deep and it hits the underside of the vehicle and it literally picks it up. Once they get stuck, they're experts at digging this out. The only thing is, sometimes it can take a very long time.
Papa Louis, vous venez avec de l'eau. On a de l'eau. Vous venez avec de l'eau. Vous venez avec de l'eau.
Papa Louis, bon, c'est une bonne personne. Il voulait que nous puissions nous aussi apprendre ce que lui connaissait.
Il veut vraiment que le peuple congolais aille de l'avant.
La seule difficulté, c'était la langue, transmission.
Nous, on ne connaissait pas l'anglais, lui ne connaissant pas le français.
Papa Louis,
Avant, il ne savait rien.
Et maintenant, ça s'améliore de plus en plus, comme il vient chaque fois ici.
Vous attendez de l'eau.
Même s'il y a des hauts et des bas, mais il continue à venir. Il veut que le Congo progresse.
So, Pelende is a village in Kwango. It's a large village. It has about 5,000 people, and it sits atop a high plateau. The Jesuits and the sisters established the community here, the SND community with the schools and the hospital, the church. All of this was established in 1956. There's a very vibrant church community. People really like their village, but due to the remote nature of it, the limited electrical power available and the other basic factors, it's a difficult place to live. There is really no form of conventional work here. They grow what they can in their fields. For the most part, they have only very, very rudimentary sanitary systems. A lot of children die very young. A lot of mothers die in childbirth. So underneath the sort of the cheery surface, there's a very, very grim and difficult reality for people who live here.
Fracture fermée au niveau probablement de la partie moyenne de la cuisse gauche.
Il est fracturé. Alors pour la fracture, avant de poser le plâtre, on doit faire la radiographie. Mais ici, nous n'avons pas cet appareil de radio. Alors maman dit qu'elle n'a pas l'argent, ils n'ont pas l'argent jusque-là. Ils n'ont pas encore payé les bandes plâtrées. C'est la pauvreté, hein?
For the majority of the population, healthcare is, for all intents and purposes, completely non-existent. So when we start out with these rather rudimentary facilities, we can take these facilities and by equipping them with electrical power, network access, even though the buildings are not the shiny, fancy buildings, for someone living here, this means that they have access to a very significant range of care.
Aussi le problème d'eau. L'eau, c'est vraiment un problème très sérieux, l'eau. Le système que nous avons ici, nous avons un système de puits ici. Vous voyez là-bas, il y a des tuyaux, l'eau de pluie, puis ça dirige vers le puits. Que ce soit pour les malades hospitalisés, que ce soit pour les femmes accouchées, seulement les opérés, l'eau n'est pas propre. Donc on ne boit pas. Rien que pour la lessive, pour se laver, à l'occasion nous mettons la chlore là-dedans, on met la chlore. Mais s'il n'y a pas de pluie, impossible d'avoir de l'eau.
One of the things that we learned along the way is that the biggest need that they have in any of these societies is water.
L'eau, c'est la vie. Nous n'avons pas d'eau. Nous souffrons. Les enfants doivent aller à la source après les cours. Et quand ils viennent, ils sont déjà fatigués. Les rivières sont très loin et il y a trop de montagnes.
The Jesuits had put in a system to pump the water from the river below up to the tower, but it had fallen into disrepair, all of the mechanics of it. So what we have been trying to do over all of these years is to raise enough money to actually restore the system. And we have, through the generosity of many donors, we have been able to do that now. And all the water will be available to the whole village, not just the school.
With the sisters having the basics of electricity, water and sanitation, and the internet resources, it allows them to begin to improve the conditions of life for the people around them.
Maintenant, nous avons un autre parallélogramme. 0 plus 5. L'éducation, c'est pour former les enfants, pour être utiles à la société, former pour la vie. Bien, et quand ils terminent, ils peuvent se prendre en charge sans problème.
Rester dans un village enclavé, ce n'est pas une bonne chose. Alors, pour aller vers Kinshasa, ils doivent d'abord être éduqués plutôt, et afin de revenir pour rééduquer et éduquer ceux qui restent au village. C'est pourquoi c'est comme ça qu'on aura un développement dans un pays. Sinon, si tout le monde reste à la maison, il n'y aura rien, il n'y aura rien.
We're at the end of a cycle at this point, so we're going to need additional help with funding some of the places. We've also got an expansion into new parts of Congo. The sisters and the Catholic education in Congo is continuing to expand.
So Ntenga is a small community. The diocese asked the sisters to go there 6 years ago, and they have been working there ever since at the high school there. And the difficulty that confronts Ntenga at this point is it is really completely undeveloped.
Les gens ici vivent de la culture. Ils cultivent les maniocs, ils cultivent les haricots et c'est ce qu'ils mangent. On n'a pas d'électricité, les gens sont habitués à vivre comme ça. À partir des 18 h, il fait noir, puisqu'ils ne peuvent pas travailler, ils ne peuvent plus étudier, rien du tout, tout s'arrête.
At the moment, the sisters at Ntenga don't really have access to a proper water. The water still has to be lifted out of that cistern by buckets that they carry to their rooms, and this is how they bathe, they cook, this is what they boil to drink.
La vie sans robinet de l'eau courante, c'est compliqué et difficile. Chaque matin, tout le monde court à la rivière pour aller chercher de l'eau. Et chaque soir, ils font la même chose. Et cette eau n'est pas vraiment potable. Et ce n'est pas bien. Les enfants ont des amibes, il y a la diarrhée, des choses comme ça. L'eau n'est pas propre.
In Ntenga, it has the opportunity at the same time to be able to take all the lessons that we've learned over the years and more efficiently implement a PV system as we would put it in today, a water system as we would put it in today, and it is the place where we are interested in developing the pilot program for online education in what would be a brand new school building.
S'il vous plaît, chers élèves, vous êtes à votre dernier jour d'examen. Alors, qu'est-ce que vous êtes censé faire pendant ces 2 jours de repos? Qu'est-ce que vous pouvez faire à la maison? Étudier. Aider les parents. Hein? Nous sommes dans la classe des premières années. Vous pouvez constater, quand il pleut, nous devons fuir puisque ça sointe. La classe n'est pas en forme. Elle est vieille, elle est en train de pleurer. Quand on a de bonnes classes, on a l'électricité, on a l'eau, les élèves peuvent étudier le soir. Ils peuvent rester à l'école toute la journée. Ils peuvent se laver, boire de l'eau propre et étudier convenablement.
And what we're really looking to achieve is the ability to have online education. And online education here, as even though it would seem to be bizarre, it requires electricity, a broadband internet, which is available through satellite. We can open literally a world of resource to students who otherwise would be trapped in the very, very limited types of things here. And one of the things that we came to realize about the value of an online education is that it's not only for the benefit of students, but it also would be of enormous benefit for the formation of teachers. One of the things that the Sisters of Notre Dame de Namur understand, it's their mandate and their mission, that education is probably, it brings the best return on investment of all of the things that they do. So that's what we're after.
We're there. We have to try. Louis is probably not going to be there forever, and I'm not going to be here forever, but they are going to be here forever. Therefore, they need to actually be able to transfer the information to the next generation of sisters and students.
Que ce projet demeure, que ce projet ait la pérennité, que ça ne termine pas maintenant, que nous allions avec le projet jusqu'à l'éternité. Nous pouvons mourir, les jeunes qui entrent peuvent continuer avec le projet.